This is the Dreyer Drive podcast, a podcast all about siblings and the people, places, and pop culture that raised us. I am one of your hosts, Ryan, fresh off of being voted Father of the Year. And in a second, I'll be joined by the other host, who I might add has never been voted Father of the Year. My sister, Jacqueline, will join us in just a second. But before that, we'll update everybody on the state of and the plans for this podcast. And then we'll dive into a recap of the Porter Family Christmas Extravaganza. And then we'll dive into today's main topic, which is everything that is and was the nostalgia of Canadian public broadcasting television children's shows, which in our case was a station called TVO. And then we'll wrap up this episode the same way that we wrap up every single episode on the Dreyer Drive podcast, with a segment that we've so neatly named Unhinged Text Messages from a Family Member. Let's do this. All right.
We're doing it. We're back.
I'm not going to lie. As I was getting prepped for today, and by prepped, I mean like changing Naya's diaper and realizing that I need to be on the call right now, got a little bit nervous.
You're like, I don't know what if we don't have it anymore? What if we
do I even have any stories to tell? Or is there going to be anything to share today? I was
thinking about like how to really explain our absence, but then I realized that like marketing wise, we can really style this first part as our first season.
And I was there.
Now we're going into our second season, and like every piece of media has seasons. You guys enjoyed the first season. I'm calling it now. This is season 2 Dreyer Drive.
Season 2 of Dreyer Drive. The format's going to be a little bit different, not of the actual episodes, but the cadence, right? So 2024, We came out swinging. Although we didn't publish an episode every week, we did record pretty much an episode every week from I think like May or something, right? We still have episodes in the vault, which I think throughout 2025 we'll drop a few of those. But I think, we had a call last week where we said, why don't we just join 2025? But yeah, so this year, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be dropping an episode every 2 weeks. As you know, a lot of research goes into these episodes.
So much research. So many expensive documentaries are watched during the research of this.
It's like Saturday Night Live, right? Like we do this. We do like a run through every night for a week running up to the show, and we're like, all right, and now it's time.
Yeah, and what you guys hear is when the kinks are worked out.
That's after a week of polish, rewrites,
workshopping like you would not believe.
Okay, all of that's a lie, just for those of you who maybe thinking that we're actually telling the truth. They're like, really? It's pretty bad, actually.
We should also say that while we're releasing every 2 weeks, we do expect the podcast episodes to be a little bit longer. So I think that's the trade-off, right? Is we're going to record a little bit longer and release every 2 weeks. So you can look forward.
The trade-off for what? I love that we're assuming that people want more. They're like, you know what? I'll put up with a 2-week break or a 2-week gap because I know the episodes will be longer.
We can hear your beautiful voices. Your wonderful cackles for an hour and 30 minutes every 2 weeks.
That's what you have to look forward to.
So I feel good about it. And also everybody else should feel good about it because we're the only two that actually take anybody's opinion into this. So.
And I actually haven't said I feel good about it. So just let it be noted for the record that 50% of
us feel good about this.
Yeah. I'm on the fence.
There.
I'm on the fence again because I'm the one who has to edit these. And when I hear longer, I hear more work.
Also, I think your life is probably more hectic than my life right now. Just seasons of life. Like you have 2 small children. I'm alone all day long. So if anybody
just looking for things to do. If anybody wants to start a second podcast with Jacqueline, you guys can send her a note.
Throw your hat in the ring. I'd love to hear it. So you have a busier schedule. So with just taking into consideration 2 small children, we both run businesses that maybe it's best to make sure that we're consistently putting out 2 episodes a month, and you guys know what to expect. You're not waiting for those Tuesday, sometimes Wednesday, sometimes Thursday drops.
Yeah, sometimes skip a week, and we can finally put a silence to the angry emails and messages that we get on social from people like, where is it? I'm on my commute right now and I'm expecting a fresh cackle.
You promised me a in-depth podcast about Mac and Me, the alien blockbuster of the
I planned my week around this. I planned my entire week and I didn't get an episode.
Also, if people want us to look up certain movies or they have movies that are near and dear to their heart, I would love to actually hear that. I would love to watch, even if they weren't movies that we watched as kids, I'd still like to check it out.
And Jacqueline's not even looking for topics for the podcast. She's actually, again, alone all day, bored.
I'm alone
looking
all day.
for
I have
things to
nothing
do.
to do.
She just wants to watch some movies from late 80s, early 90s and just be brought back in time. But actually in the Mac and Me episode, I think at some point in time, because the edit's pretty fresh in my brain, we actually do make the same request. We ask for people, we're going to watch Saturday the 14th. We're going to watch Little Monsters. We're going to watch Critters. So again, mainly just for something to do.
I'm realizing now, though, we watched a lot of B movies as kids, and I think it's because they were the 99-cent rentals at Video 99. Like, we weren't willing to put out the money for a new release, so we were just like pulling out from like the back wall of Video 99.
It's the movie version of the Crispy. What do you guys have at the bottom of the barrel here?
They're like, you can take this for free. No one has rented this for 3 years. And we're like, yes.
And I wonder, I don't know about you, but like I still watch a lot of like weird-ish movies, like just kind of like offbeat or off the beaten path type movies. And a lot of those movies are still like my favorites.
Let me tell you what I did on Saturday. Do you want to know what I did yesterday on Saturday?
I'd love to know.
My best friend and I and my daughter and her best friend attended a 5-movie marathon of Twilight. It started at 8 a.m. and went till 9 p.m. We were there all day long. We got breaks for lunch. There was a break for dinner, but we watched.
Oh, did you get breaks? You were also paying for this thing. Like,
I was out of breath the entire time, so I did have to take several breaks. But yeah, we spent the entire day at Saturday at the movie theater watching all the movies back to back.
Why?
You know what? I don't know why. Like, my best friend and I were talking about how when Twilight originally came out, we were like all the way in. Like, we were like, this is amazing. But the thing about Twilight is that the enthusiasm for the movies really fell off as they went on. Like, first movie, everyone's super excited. Second movie, everyone's all excited. Third, everyone's like, and then they broke up the fourth one into 2 parts. And then by like part 2, everybody was done with them. And like, we never want to see these movies again. And so a movie theater was doing this. They rented out the entire movie theater. Every screen was showing this, and they were sold out. We had to buy our tickets. I think we bought them in November.
Ew.
And it was one of those things that like my friend messaged me and was like, should we do this? This would be so fun. I'm like, yeah, of course we should do this. This would be so hilarious. And then as it got closer and closer, she was like, I don't know if I can do this. I'm like, I don't know. We might have to dip out of like, and I'm like, you know what? And we finally had to just like promise ourselves, hey, if we need to tap out, if we need to leave, we're just going to be honest with each other. And we were going to say, and we were going to leave, no questions asked. So I have to admit, by the last movie, we tapped out. We were like, we can't do this anymore.
You didn't stay for the whole thing?
We tapped out on the last movie. It got to like, it was probably around 6:37 p.m. and they were breaking for dinner. And then you had to come back and watch the last one. And I was like, look, if I'm breaking for dinner, I'm going home. Like, I can't stay around any longer.
Did the girls?
So we all left. We dropped the girls off at Addie's friend's apartment. They went to Target and we drove home.
I feel like that's a failure. Like, you guys
I don't think it's a failure because we did also go home and watch it from the comfort of our home.
Ew! So you paid to do a thing that you opted out and then went home and did it at that's ridiculous.
We checked before we left to make sure that we could access it on Hulu or whatever. And I was like, guys, it's on Hulu. We can go home now. So we did. I spent $40 on each ticket. It was $40 a ticket to do this. And then we ate so much movie theater. And it's been established that I love
Can you finish that sentence? Movie theater. Yeah, okay. You said we ate so much movie theater. The seats, the cushions.
No, but it's well established that one of my favorite foods is a movie theater hot dog. So you can imagine how much fun I was having living in a movie theater basically for a day and only eating movie theater food. I ate movie theater hot dogs. I ate half of a movie theater pizza. I ate a giant movie theater cookie. We got through an entire tub, like the extra large tubs of popcorn. We got through that. I mean, we also brought snacks. Everybody there brought pillows and blankets, so it looked like we had moved into the movie theater.
It looked like when the student union occupies the admissions office while they're making demands from a university.
It was wild. We show up there and we were actually a little bit late because we were worried about the food situation. So even though we're running late, we were like, we should stop and at McDonald's really fast because it was, again, 8 a.m. when we were doing this. So we ran and got McDonald's and showed up. It was probably 10 minutes late. And there was all these tables set up with like lanyards, like very official lanyards with like backstage passes on them. And they're like, can we get your last name? And I was like, oh, I did not know that it was this level of serious. So we like get our lanyards and put them on. They had it like decorated. It was like, welcome to Forks, which is the place that's in Twilight. And like, like backdrops that you could take pictures in front of. Wild. People were dressed up. There was Team Edward, Team Jacob shirts everywhere. It was a wild experience. Am I that big of a Twilight fan? No, I'm not. I just was like interested in the true cultural experience that was the Twilight Marathon of 2025.
I've never seen a Twilight movie. I've never seen a Harry Potter movie. I've never read the books of either. Yeah, neither of them. I'm just not, again, I'm into B movies. I'm into, give me Saturday the 14th, give me Mac and Me. Anyways, those are the types of movies that I get into. Twilight? No, not for me.
What is like, do you have a comfort movie that you watch again and again and again, like you never get sick of?
Obviously, we talked a little bit about this, I think in the last episode, the Christmas episode. So not Mac and Me, the one before that was the Christmas playlist episode. There's some Christmas movies that like for sure, I'll watch. Like we did actually watch one together when we were all together for Christmas. The Family Man is like, I watch that every year. It's Nicolas Cage and it's kind of like a alternate life type movie if you haven't seen
Sliding doors situation.
Yeah, exactly. So that's like a Christmas comfort movie for me. But I don't know if I can call it a comfort movie, but if I'm like, hey, I have some time, I want to watch a movie, I don't know what I want to watch. There's actually like probably one of two movies I'll put on. One is The Departed. We also talked about that. It's not like a relaxing, like sit back and like just feel great about
cozy
life. And the other one actually is my favorite movie of all time. And I don't know if we've mentioned this in a previous episode, but there's a movie called The 25th Hour. And it is hands down my favorite movie. So if I don't know what I want to watch, I'll just try to find out which streaming service happens to offer The 25th Hour. And The 25th Hour, if you haven't seen it, it's a Spike Lee movie. It's Edward Norton. He's a drug dealer. He's been caught and convicted. And it's about his last 24 hours before he has to like check into prison. And the 25th hour, that's when he actually has to be checking into prison. Yeah, and it's about him like just trying to like take care of affairs on that last day basically before he has to go away to prison. So I don't know why, but it's my favorite movie. So I'll just watch that.
We have different levels of comfort. Although I think I probably said this before, that I had a long stint in a hospital once where I was in the hospital for 6 weeks, flat on my back, and I was only allowed to move 1 hour a day. So for 23 hours a day, I had to be strapped down on this bed on monitors consistently for 23 hours a day. So one of the things I did, obviously, it was when Netflix was doing the mail movies. Like you would get your Netflix movie in the mail. And so Justin would bring the DVDs to me in the movie theater. And the one I kept the entire time that I was there was 300. And I would watch it nonstop. And I don't know, I think it was just because I was so easy to dissociate myself from like my settings and like where I was by just watching like men get decapitated for 2 hours a day. And I would literally watch it every day. And I think the nurses started to get a little uncomfortable every time they would come into the room to check out, like, how are things going? It was like, like blood everywhere. And I was like, I'm fine. Things are great. Obviously in a great mental state.
Didn't help also every time they asked how you're doing and you yelled out, "This is Sparta!" Like, I'm sorry. Do we need to restrain you?
So that for a time, 300 was my comfort movie, and I would never get sick of it. Right now, my comfort movie that I never get sick of watching, and I guarantee you've never watched it, but if you want a good B movie, this is it. It's called Austen Land, and Austen Land, no one's ever seen it. It's a movie about a girl.
Take that.
She's obsessed with Jane Austen, the books. So she uses her life savings to go to a theme park hotel where everybody pretends they're in an Austen movie and someone's paid to be like your love interest. And it's a comedy. And what I love about it is because it's so clearly a low budget B movie, you can really see the strings of things and
shadows of like cameras and stuff.
Yeah. You can see you can tell that a sheep is actually just a statue, but they're pretending like it's a real sheep. And they just kind of go with it. Everybody's in on the joke kind of about how low budget this movie is. And every time I watch it, I still think it's the funniest movie that I've ever seen. And it's anytime I travel, I have it on my phone. Anytime I travel, I will forego what movie is playing in the back of the screen, and I will watch Austinland again for like the 30th time.
I think you're actually watching someone's like senior year like English project. I don't
know.
It's an actual movie.
Might be. It might be
like something a grade 12 student is like, let me make this.
And like there's only one famous person in it, and the rest of them you've never seen the people ever again.
I like those kinds of movies. I like when they have like budget for like one really good paid actor, and the rest is like, and you're an actor.
Yeah, the rest definitely came from the BYU Idaho, which is the worst of the BYUs.
The worst of the three?
Three. Lowest tier BYU is BYU Idaho. So yeah, that's I guess that I feel like leads into what I think we need to do now before we really get into the rest of the podcast is recap what Christmas was like, because we really talked up like the Porter family Christmas all in one house that we did. And I just want to get your thoughts. Definitely you need to talk about your travel experience. So while I was kicked back watching Austinland for the 30th time in my quick 4-hour flight, you were having a completely different experience traveling.
Yeah, I'll try to give like the quickest version of it. I have told this story now dozens of times, so hopefully I've got it down pretty.
It's a crowd pleaser.
Yeah, pretty tight here. But so 8 hours before we were scheduled to get picked up by the airport limousine, like mini bus or whatever, that was going to come pick us up and bring us to the airport here in Okinawa. I was checking in online, as one does, and because Seiko and Naya, so my wife and our littlest one, they don't have Canadian passports, so you have to get this thing called an ETA. It's a travel document. Basically, you pay like $7 online or whatever the price is. And then they're like, yes, you can go to Canada. So did that for Naya and Seiko. Naya's comes back right away, approved. Seiko's is not approved right away. And I was like, that's weird. And like waited for like 30 minutes, 45 minutes, nothing comes through. I'm like, okay, starting to get like a little bit sweaty. And luckily, one of our younger brothers, Jonathan, is a lawyer who specializes in immigration law. And so
really handy.
Yeah. So I messaged him at like 7 a.m. his time. So it's 9 p.m. now our time. And I'm like, you awake? And he said, I'll call you in 5 minutes. And afterwards he told me like, you never get a you awake message. And there's like really good news or something funny and lighthearted that follows. It's like, I'm about to go to jail. Can you help? So he calls me and I said, hey, Seiko hasn't got her ETA document. Do you know anything that might prevent her from getting that? And what I haven't mentioned so far is that Seiko actually has permanent resident status in Canada, but her card had expired in March. And we thought, no big deal because she's going as a tourist, so it's not a problem. Mm-hmm. But what I learned on the phone call with Jonathan is it's actually a big problem because you never lose your permanent resident status. The card just expires. And if you have an expired card, you cannot enter Canada commercially. It means you cannot enter Canada on a plane, a train, a boat, or a bus. Now, please everybody remember, we are scheduled to leave in like 7 hours. And so we go on the purest scramble of trying to figure out what we are going to do to get Seiko into Canada. Mind you, we have bought these non-refundable tickets months in advance, and now we find out that Seiko can no longer join us on the trip via Air Canada's flights through Canada to Canada. So like the night before, I'm literally booking everything because you have 24 hours to cancel a plane ticket. So I'm like, okay, here's one possible thing that we could do. All right, buy 4 tickets. Okay, here's another thing we could do. Okay, buy 4 tickets. Here's another thing we might do. Buy this ticket. And we sat down and we're like in tears, right? Like literally in tears because this is
obviously
now essentially doubling the price of this already very expensive trip. And I said to Seiko, like, listen, we are a family. We are taking a family trip. We are going to do this as a family. And I called Air Canada and I was like, listen, this thing's happening. We're going to miss this leg of the flight, but from Toronto on, we can be there because we discovered that Seiko can actually fly to the US. And if she crosses over a land border via a private vehicle, she's actually fine. It's perfectly legal to enter the country that way. So Jonathan was going to pick us up in Buffalo. We were going to fly to Buffalo via Detroit, go across, and then the rest of our trip was just going to be like the regular itinerary. But then I found out that once you miss a leg of the itinerary, the entire itinerary is canceled. So the family trip was, no, we're not doing a family trip. Seiko, you're going by yourself. Jonathan will meet you in Buffalo. We will see you in New Brunswick. And so I and the 2 girls, my 5-year-old at the time, she's 6 now, but Noah, 5 years old at the time, Naya, 5 months at the time, made the trip from Tokyo to Toronto, arrived there. Our flight was canceled to New Brunswick. Luckily, Seiko then was able to join us. We stayed in the same hotel and then we made our way to New Brunswick as a family unit. But of course, we lost the entire ticket for Seiko's portion. And the crazy part is, again, you miss one leg of the itinerary, the entire thing's canceled. So on the phone call where I am canceling or being told that Seiko's entire itinerary is canceled because she missed that one Tokyo to Toronto leg of the trip, I'm rebooking her on the exact same trip in the exact same seats. Like, just
it's painful. It's painful.
Wild. Absolutely wild. So yeah, I was like hyperventilating the night before, got zero sleep, right? Like I literally like laid down in bed and was like, what the heck just happened? And then like my alarm went off and the limousine was here. Limousine. I don't know why I said it like that, but the limousine was here, got in there. And then of course I didn't sleep on the flights because I'm holding a 5-month-old and trying to entertain a 5-year-old. And the best part is Air Canada, of course, booked the other ticket beside us, which was supposed to be Seiko's seat immediately after, like upon cancellation. So yeah, and I'm in the middle seat holding a 5-month-old for 12 and a half hours on that flight to Toronto. So anyway, wild start to that trip and put me in just like a little bit of a funk for the first week or so. But anyways, it was all good. By the end of it, it was fine. We had a fun time. It was great being with everybody, but that's how mine kicked off.
Yeah, I mean, when I got home, so many people, because I told everybody, it's not very often that we do a Porter family Christmas like this. It's been probably like 10, 12 years since we did it last time. And so everybody's asking me like, how was it? How was it? How was it? And I'm always like, I always give the same answer. I'm like, A, it was chaotic. B, it was great. But C, also I'm like, I've learned that, and I don't want this to come across as like, not like I don't have feelings, but we are really good at being a long distance family. Like I feel like we really like fine-tuned how to communicate and like maintain some level of closeness, even though we all live now. Almost all of us, there's going to be 5 of us in 4 different countries. And so it's like, we're pretty good at this. So, well, it was super cool to all be together. At the same time, I was like, I talk to you every week. I talk to Jonathan every week. It's like, oh, it's just the person that I FaceTime with every week is now in front of me physically, but we're talking about the exact same stuff we'd be talking, you know what I mean? So it's like, it was a little funny in that I was like, yeah, it was great. I'm like, but also like, we're also really good at long distance. So it wasn't like, oh my gosh, this was the best experience of my life. I can't wait to do it again. I'm like, yeah, that was cool. It was just like something new, I guess. I don't know. I had like mixed feelings about it.
If it was the year 2004, it would have been like, it was so special to have everybody in the same room.
I think that's exactly what it is.
But we said like, it's just, we're carrying on the conversation that we literally had 3 days before. We weren't all in the same room, but yeah, now we're just not limited to this like little box. I forgot like how tall, for example, I forgot how tall you were. I was like, I'm used to seeing you literally just
I'm very tall.
Just your face. But I was like, I thought you were I actually remembered you being much shorter. But anyways, same with Jonathan. I was like, were you always tall? Like, because again, we only just see like heads, right?
See small, and small spaces. I mean, the best part was obviously like I got to hold your baby the entire time as much as I could, and like that kind of stuff. I can't hold your baby through a screen, and every time we talk and I see Naya, I just want to like squish her face. So like getting to actually tactically.
No, I like tactilely
in my limousine.
Tactilely. It sounds like a name. It's like a first and a last name. Mr. Tactilely?
Tactilely. But being able, I'm not even going to use that word.
And it's not also the real word.
Tactically.
Yeah, anyway, tactically.
Being able to hold your baby. Like that was the fun part. Seeing the cousins that we don't often see, like that was super fun. The rest of it, I'm like, yeah, we see each other all the time through a screen. So it was interesting, I guess. And this way we did get a lot more Tim Hortons, which was important to me. We had that,
Tim Hortons every day.
That house was wall to wall Tim Hortons every single day. And that
sponsored
was really nice.
Yeah.
Truly sponsored by Tim Hortons. And that was the best part. I did have my own harrowing travel experience on the way home.
Please tell.
Let me tell you about that. First of all, we all had to buy extra suitcases to go home because of...
Oh no, we had too many presents. Oh my gosh.
We told everybody to not buy big presents. Not a single person in our family listened to that. And we all had to buy new suitcases to bring stuff home. So that was number one. I was not expecting that. Although we got everything checked for free because we were going to take them as carry-ons. And once they saw how many we had, they were like, just check those.
You're doing us a favor.
Right. You're welcome. We went to the lounge in the Toronto airport to get some snacks and drinks or whatever. And when we first got to the the lounge, there wasn't 5 seats together. So Justin went with the older kids to one side and I had Aaron with me, my youngest. And then 2 more seats opened up. So Justin motioned us over and we went over and sat with them, not realizing that Aaron had been playing my precious my precious Nintendo Switch. And he left it on the chair where we were first sitting. And we didn't realize this until we were already on the plane, like belted in. And I was like, where's my Switch? Because I wanted to play it while we were taking off.
No, you didn't just want to play it. Tell everybody the truth. What did you actually want to do?
I hadn't seen my villagers on Animal Crossing for quite some time because we were too busy during Christmas. And I was really worried about them because they're really passive aggressive when you don't come around. And they're like, we thought you were dead or something. So I was a little nervous that they were going to be upset with me. So literally as soon as we sat down, buckled in, I was like, okay, hand over the Switch. I'm ready. And Aaron was like, I don't have the Switch. And I checked with the other kids. They don't have the Switch. Justin had put his backpack up. He had to get it down. I made everybody go through and realize that we didn't have the Switch. Aaron left the Switch in the lounge. And luckily I handled this really well. Just kidding, I didn't. I started crying like a baby, which then made Aaron start crying because he felt so bad. And then he and I were just like inconsolably crying while the rest of our family was like, what do we do? Because I was crying because I was like, my islanders, my village, they're gonna think
I forgot them. I didn't forget.
Like, they didn't do anything wrong and they're not gonna know. They're gonna think they did something to push me away and they didn't. So whatever, cried. As soon as we got home, to Utah, we filed lost and found with the Pearson Airport. And Justin also contacted the lounge because we knew it was in the lounge. And for 3 weeks, they were like, we have not seen any of this. No, we can't find it. And then 3 weeks later, they messaged us and were like, hey, good news. We found your Switch. I'm like, okay. So I paid $85 for them to ship it here. And when I got it, it was completely wiped all of the memory. So there was nothing on it. So all of that. And guess what? My villagers are still just out there floating in space, wondering what they did wrong. And I feel awful about it.
Well, now also let people know that you wrote an email to Nintendo and asked them to publish a letter to your villagers and send them out to all of their servers, just in case some of them might still be out there waiting to hear from you.
Ryan, the worst part is I did contact Nintendo to see if there's... I contacted them to see if there was any way that
No, you have an actual problem.
My village was saved on somewhere on some server or something. And they were like, no, we don't have it. So I had to start my Animal Crossing village from scratch again. That's all I've been doing for the last week. Literally 8 hours a day I'm grinding on that village.
Meanwhile, there's some Toronto Pearson International Airport employee who's like, this island is awesome. I'm so glad I copied it.
It was a great island. It was so good. It was Wild Wild West themed.
And didn't you also purchase a new Nintendo Switch?
Well, this was my second Nintendo Switch because my first one, I had one and I was kind of toying with the idea of starting a new island, but I didn't want to get rid of my old island.
So you got a new Nintendo Switch.
So I got a new Switch so that sometimes I go back and visit my old island, my island 1.0, just to make sure they're still doing okay, that there's not too many weeds on the island.
Have you checked that? Maybe the new ones went to the old one. Maybe they were like, we got to try to find it. We heard her talking about another island. Let's go find the other island. This would be a great movie. How many incredible movie scripts have we come up with on this podcast?
So many. The Animal Crossing refugee system, man. They're there.
It could be like a Lego movie. I feel like this is a Lego movie. Like, you're welcome. You're welcome for all of the movie producers that take it and run with it. So it sounds like we all just had our own travel woes during this experience. Some more traumatizing than others.
Yes, mine was more traumatizing.
Yeah. We were like, Seiko and I, the night before, we were like in tears being like, this is supposed to be a family vacation. And like, we were afraid that we were going to like traumatize Noah for family trips. Like, we're going on a family trip. She's like, is mommy coming too? Like, we figured that was going to be like the thing that carries over from this trip. So, and we had bought her some like new Nintendo Switch controllers. We had bought her the new Mario Party. So like, we could all play together as like a family and we were going to like unveil it on the airplane. But like, we were like, hey, so mommy's not going to be on the airplane with us, but here's the new Nintendo Switch controllers and here's the new Mario Party.
Hooray. Look, it's only 3-player anyway.
we were like, okay. We're going to bring you right down. We're you rank back up. You're not even going to get a chance to process those emotions. The best part is too, the part I didn't tell is when we got to the airport, because we had booked Seiko on this flight to go through Detroit to Buffalo, and it was leaving about 2 hours earlier than our flight. So we were all in the airport in Tokyo together. So we're like, let's just try like one more swing with Air Canada. So we went to the Air Canada desk and we were like, hey, this thing happened. They're saying that she can't fly. And the woman was like, oh, but do you guys want to fly together? I'm like, no, we don't. That's why we're here. Of course we want to fly together. That's why.
No, I actually hate my wife.
Yeah, yeah, we do. But can she sit at the back and we sit at the... But anyways, so I was like, yes, of course we'd like to fly together. She's like, okay, well, yeah, just pass me her PR card. And I'm like, is this all, like, was this just all, this is it. There's a glimmer of hope. And she like swiped it and she was like, oh, she's like, yeah, I've never seen this before. You can't board the flight. And the second she said that, it like triggered everything again. So Noah starts crying. Seiko starts crying because Seiko's like, I'm so sorry, Noah. Like, we wanted this to be a family trip. I look up, the Air Canada staff, like the woman is crying. She's like, I'm sorry. I wish there was more that I could do. There's nothing. I just swiped the card. It won't let. I'm like, it's not your fault. It's fine. I'm like, all right, let's go. Let's like lock in. Seiko, you've got a mission. You've got a mission. Get your bag and nothing else. I've got the kids. I've got this. Like, let's go. Hug, kiss, fist bump, high five. Let's move out. And
then Seiko enjoys a beautiful flight where she watches movies and relaxes the entire time.
She's telling me about all the movies she watched. I couldn't watch movies because anytime the screen was on, like Naya wouldn't be able to sleep. There was one time actually where Noah was like, can we watch the same movie at the same time? And she put on the B movie, like the Jerry Seinfeld animation B movie.
Which is funny because you've just been talking about how much you love B movies.
Yeah, absolutely. And Naya thought the end credits were hilarious, which was fun for me. The only entertainment I had on that 12.5-hour flight was Naya laughing at it. And I guess I'll leave with this part before we go through a few more things, maybe about the holidays and get into the real topic. But as I was nearing the end of the flight attendants were coming through and collecting the final round of like trash after breakfast. So it's usually about an hour before you land. You get served breakfast on those longer flights. And there was the senior flight attendant, meaning she was probably the oldest flight attendant on there. And she's probably like, 10 years older than me. And she came through and she saw me and she goes, are you by yourself? And I'm like, I'm wearing a baby and I'm with my other daughter here. So no, it's the three of us. She goes, no. She goes, I mean with like another grown up. I'm like, I am the grown up. Like I am the grown up. Like I'm not. And she's like, no, you know what I mean. And she didn't want to say like your wife, because of course you don't want to assume. And she didn't want to
You're a strong, independent man.
I'm a strong, independent man. And I was like, my wife is actually on it. We can probably look out the window and see her because she's flying the same direction.
Side by side.
On a different flight that's going through Detroit and Buffalo and I told her the story and she was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that. And then like she went up and then when she was coming back through, she was like, I just want to let you know, like, you're the father of the year. You are amazing. You are the father of the year. And like, as I was leaving, I didn't know this, but I guess she had told every other flight attendant. And like, I'm leaving like a war hero. I'm walking off the plane. People are clapping for me, high-fiving me and Noah. They're pushing single mothers to the ground to get father of the year through.
That's what you told the story. And what drives me crazy is I have flown with my kids by myself 100 times. I would say conservatively 100 times by myself with the kids. And no one said a thing to me.
No one's called you father of the year. No one has called you father
of the year. Mostly they just get pretty annoyed that I'm walking on the airplane with children.
Yeah. I was looking around, no joke, when they said that, because I can imagine Seiko and I can imagine you being alone on a flight with children. Mm-hmm. And I'm like looking around and I'm like, first of all, feeling great because father of the year is a pretty big deal. But I'm also looking around at all of the mothers I can spot who are like doing the exact same thing and just getting no recognition. And for just a second in time, just a 1 second, I felt for all the mothers out there.
Thanks for that 1 second.
But then as I was leaving that plane, getting cheered for, getting high fives and butt taps, people were smacking my butt like I just played a good game. I'm like, you know what? Father of the year is pretty great.
You know what? I feel great about this, and I feel like equality is alive and well. This is fine.
If there's anything I've learned from this, if there's one lesson to be taken away, I'm father of the year.
So I thought for our question of the week, we could do kind of a callback to our Christmas together. And so in our family, we do this thing called high, low, learn. And it's usually after a trip or an experience that we have with our family.
Hold on. Just for a second. High, low, learn. That's your family, not our collective. This is the first time I'm hearing about this.
Sorry. This is in my family, me and my kids and my husband. We play this game called high-low learn after we've been on a trip or after we've had an experience together. We go around the table and everybody has to say what their high point of the trip was, what their low point of the trip was, and what they learned from the trip. And so I thought we should do that about Porter Family Christmas. What was your high, low, and your learn experience? So something that you loved, something that you hated, and something that taught you something new you didn't know.
Aside from the lesson that I've already shared with everybody, that your PR card can expire and it will cost you lots of money if you don't recognize it.
Yeah, and like obviously you flying, but crying at the airport, that was definitely a low. I am not going to say losing my Switch was a low because that was the lowest of lows. Like of the actual trip, once we were all together, your high, low learned of that.
Okay, so the high is definitely seeing Noah and Aaron be instant best friends. Like I was a little bit like Noah is like, you don't know necessarily which version of Noah you're going to get. She can be really outgoing and friendly and helpful and like funny, but then other times she can be really reserved and like she wants to monitor the situation before she dives in. And like she has only been in the same room with Aaron probably like twice in her life. So I was kind of like, how's this gonna be? And she was like instantly like in love with Aaron, best friends. She wanted to do everything together. And for some weird reason, and it's hard for anyone else to maybe notice this because you only got to see Noah in that like physical realm in that like one period of time, but like the instant confidence it gave her, I don't know, it's just this like weird thing for me. It's like really cool for me to see her like get to be with family because she doesn't get to have the weekly calls, although she does, but I don't know if she like fully registers. And like we grew up with a big family. We grew up like always doing stuff with our cousins. And so that part of it was like really cool for me to see. So that was definitely the high. The low and the learn, I think were potentially the same thing, which is we always joke about on this podcast. We're like, just kidding. No one listens to this podcast except our family. And during the trip, I realized, we learned that actually our family does not listen to this podcast. There were times where we started like retelling stories and I'd be like, oh, never mind. I told this on the podcast like 2 weeks ago. And
go on.
No, like literally blank stares. People are like, what are you actually? You have a podcast? Like, this is the first I'm hearing of this. And I remember asking like, wait, do you guys not listen to the podcast? And like everyone was waiting for somebody else to like say something. And I think it was George. George stepped up and he took a swing. He was like, well, it's not that we don't listen. We just don't listen to it all in one go. We like to chop it up and listen to like a single episode
sprinkle it through the day.
I'm like, the day, the weeks, the months, what are we talking about here? It's like the quarter. I like to spread an episode over a quarter. I'm like, so you've listened to one episode. And the funny thing is I went out a couple times with buddies, and one night I decided to go to a buddy's house and hang out there for a little bit. And a bunch of buddies came and we were all just kind of hanging out. And let me tell you, my friends were referencing the podcast. They're like, oh yeah, it's just like Dan likes to do manual labor. Ha ha ha. Laughing because we talked about it. Yeah, we talked about it in the podcast about how Dan avoids all manual labor with the family and projects and things like that. And I'm like, okay, cool. So my learning here is that my friends are the real Crispies. And my low was that our families does not listen to this. There's no, we can say whatever we want about any family member. They will never know we're saying it about them because they don't listen.
We had some people who will narc to our mom about things that we said about her.
Just rat us out.
And would be like, rat us out. And I'm like, you didn't need to tell her that. Do you think it's like they don't listen just because like this is what they get all the time from us? Like, why would I listen to you guys when you call us and do this in our ears constantly? Like,
I just think they're not interested.
I don't need to download that.
This does not line up with the type of content that I want to consume in my life. That's what I chalk it up to that they just don't want to listen.
Okay, so my high-low learn. My high and low happened on the same night. The high was when we went skating downtown at Nathan Phillips Square. High, there are so many highs.
The low was the temperature. Like, the low was actually
literally, right? Literally. So the high was that like taking my kids to do something that was so like such an integral part of like my growing up near Toronto, like Nathan Phillips Square, just like and we get there and it starts to snow and it was like, oh, like I'm like, this is so magical. They've got the music playing, all these families are out happy. We had to wait in like the longest line to rent our skates. And then my older kids have been skating, but I guess my youngest has never been on ice before. And I just assumed, in Canada, you're born, they strap skates on you and you slide out the womb on a rink of ice. Like that's how it goes.
Hospital floors are ice.
Are ice, yeah. That's little known fact. And so I just assumed, like, you figure it out. I've never seen somebody whose body rejected ice skating the way Aaron's did. And Justin decided to stay back and stay with our shoes. He didn't want to skate. Typical American. He did not want to participate in our cultural activity. And so Jonathan and I were holding Aaron's hand trying to get him to skate. And he was like actively fighting against it. And like, I was just like, just go limp, man. Just go limp. And it would be easier. We could drag you along. But he was trying to stand up, and he's a big kid. He's built like a truck. And so trying to skate, holding Aaron was so funny. And it was just like the perfect Christmas moment. The low was the weather that night I forgot how wet the snow is in Toronto. So as soon as it starts snowing, every part of you is wet. And afterwards, the next day, Seiko and I had gone out just in the morning to go run some errands together. And she asked me, like, was Justin really mad the night before? And I was like, no, I don't. He wasn't mad. She was like, oh, his face just looked really mad. I was like, well, first of all, it's just kind of his face. But second of all, I'm like, it was very cold and unhappy to be that cold and wet. Like we all forgot like how to dress for that like type of weather. We were just all sopping wet anyway. Although taking the train with Noah and Aaron was so much fun because they were so excited about the entire experience. Like nothing was better than being on a train with a bunch of little kids.
I wouldn't know, because as soon as we got on the train, everybody abandoned me, and I sat on the 3-level train while you guys were on the 3rd level.
We went up.
I was on the 1st level with Naya, holding her, while strangers are just like, oh, look at your little baby. And I'm like, these guys are probably having
Dad of the Year.
Passengers, we just want to alert everybody. We've been informed by Air Canada that we have the Dad of the Year on board. Everybody, round of applause. I wonder if this is like human nature, or if this is just like a tribute, like an attribute of our family. But I would probably argue that this is human nature, that in your brain, you imagine these situations, or you imagine like what would be just the perfect way for tonight to go. And you imagine like, okay, we're a family and we're walking up Bay Street. We're working our way towards Nathan Phillips Square. And just like the fate would have, it starts to lightly snow. Snowflakes landing on the tips of our noses as we blow them off and laugh at the magical sight that Christmas has blessed us with. And in your head, you're like, that's so perfect. That's how I want this to go. And then you step outside and it's like that. And everybody is just like, what the heck? Of course it's snowing. Of course it's snowing. And of course it's so cold. Of course Naya wants to eat a bottle. Of course she wants to drink a bottle now. Of course she peed. Great. Now we got to figure out where to change her diaper. Are there no bathrooms in the city of Toronto? Does nobody sharpen skates at Nathan Phillips Square? Like literally everything was just horrible.
Right, now the Zamboni's coming out. Awesome. So that was high and low happened on the same night. But then my learn was really interesting because we rented it. Hopefully the Airbnb host does not actually because my learn
I left business cards. QR codes.
It was a house. We had to kind of scramble. We had a house booked originally and they canceled it at the last minute. So we just had to get the next biggest house that we could find that could fit everybody. And when we got there, obviously there's no Christmas decorations. So we had our Annie Gail lent us some that she had, and Mom brought all of our childhood stockings from New Brunswick in her SUV full of Christmas. It was
giant Tupperware containers.
Yes.
Christmas decorations from the early 2000s, late 90s.
That we haven't, I haven't seen since I moved out. And so we decorated a Christmas tree and I found the stockings and I hung the stockings with those little command hooks across the fireplace.
With care.
With care, obviously with care. And so and we had the fire turned on a lot of the time. Like every morning I'd go down and it
was a gas fireplace, right?
It was a gas fireplace. So yeah, every morning I'd go down and turn the fire on. And so it was running constantly. And it wasn't until Christmas Eve when we went to go take the stockings down. Once we took them off the fireplace, we realized that they had burned the shapes of the stockings, the outlines of the stockings into the face of the fireplace. So everybody, it was like I took them down and I'm looking at it and I'm like, am I going crazy, or are there yellow outlines of stockings all over the white fireplace that used to be white? And I had everybody come down like, does this look weird to you? And I think we were pretty evenly split. Some of the people were being very generous and being like, no, I think that's the way it was. But unfortunately, I had taken pictures when we got there because I am neurotic. And I took pictures of everything to make sure that we put everything back the same way, because I
to make sure no one could accuse us of ruining everything, which we
of ruining the fireplace
to do.
So when everybody's like, I don't know, I think it was there before I pulled up the picture on my phone. I was like, oh no, we definitely burned the outlines of these stockings into this fireplace. One of our cousins happens to be a
I was going to say this.
Fireman. And so
firefighter.
And I consulted his expert opinion, and I was like, is this my fault? And he was like, yeah, it's probably your fault, but it's also their fault because they didn't use heat protective paint or whatever. So he's like, so, 50-50. And I was like, should I say something to them about it? And again, family split completely 50-50. Half the family was like, yes, you absolutely should tell them that you did this. The other half, including our firefighter cousin, which he had more of a vote than anybody else, was like, do not say anything.
He had a weighted vote. His vote was weighted.
Because my knee-jerk reaction would always be, I'm a very guilty person. I feel guilty all the time. And so my knee-jerk reaction was to text him as soon as it happened and apologize profusely and like leave $200 on the table as I left. Like that was my original thing. Everybody's like, no, don't say anything unless, and then if they said something to you, then you can offer to pay for it. So I'm like, okay. So my learning experience was that just because something's a fireplace, do not assume that you can just put stockings on it with care or without care. It doesn't matter. You just need to be careful about that kind of thing.
Very specific. It's called like hyper specific learning. So hopefully there's someone listening to this right now and they're like, wow, we were going to do that next year for Christmas. And now we know we are going to bring a clothing rack and we will hang our stockings with care from the clothing rack, which doesn't have the same nice ring to it. But hung
not as cozy
from the clothing rack with care, I think we could probably make it work.
Yeah. So I think like moral of the story, like we all had our highs, we all had our lows, we all learned something. And honestly, I'm very comfortable with the long distance status of our family.
Yeah, I think we're all okay with it. I don't think there was a person that walked away and said, we should do this every year.
Especially not the people who were married in, which I felt so bad for the entire time.
It was weird for me. You've probably experienced this now for decades, but it was the first time that I was looking forward to going home and my home wasn't Canada, where I was just like, I just want to get back to Okinawa because this is our home. And then Seiko and I...
Home for Christmas means something different now.
Yeah. Like that's how I felt. And when we got back, Seiko and I went wild. It was like we were tourists in Okinawa. I went like we only had 3 days to consume everything. We came home, we ate so much food. We got prepared for New Year's, and then right after New Year's, I got COVID, which of course we haven't mentioned, but got COVID. I was out for a week, about a week with COVID. But just before that, we spent the 3-4 days for New Year's, and Seiko and I ate everything. We went to every restaurant that we liked. We had sushi, I think, every day for like 5 days straight when we got back here. But it was the first time where I'm like, of course, I love Canada. I love our family. I really miss my friends. Like it's tough to put that one into like context or like to state that enough. But like when I'm with my buddies back in Ajax Whitby, I'm like, man, I miss these guys. But I also miss my home, which is now in Okinawa. That's where I want to go. And it didn't help that it was like minus 18 degrees Celsius daily, snowing. And the day before I left Okinawa, I was out in flip-flops and a t-shirt, washing and waxing my car and riding my motorcycle in a hoodie. Like it was just, we literally left here. It was 23 degrees. We arrived in Toronto. It was minus 18 and snowing. Like, perfect. What? So
home for Christmas.
Yes.
So, okay. I think that we've sufficiently recapped Porter Family Christmas. I decided to go kind of light with the topic today because I knew that we would be talking a lot about Christmas instead. But I did invent kind of like a little game to play for our topic this year.
I would like to say I'm equal parts excited and scared, but it's mostly fear.
The name of the game is going to be, how well do you remember television programming for children on TV Ontario?
On TVO.
TVO. For Americans who are not familiar, TVO is the Canadian Ontario version of PBS. So it's public programming. So these are the television shows that we would have grown up with. I specifically was going from about 1989 to about 1996 was probably when we would be consuming children's programming. And this does not include YTV. YTV will be a completely different episode. There were too many things about YTV to talk about.
And that's where my brain is going to really have a hard time, like not mixing the two. Because I guarantee I'll be like, was that YTV or was that TVO? But I think I can probably, for the most part, do some of it. Do some of it.
Great. Yep, that's what it means, most part.
I'm fairly confident that I don't have confidence.
Most of these are going to be like character-related questions.
Okay.
So put your thinking cap on, put your learning cap on, and we will start with some easier, what I would say easier ones. Okay, so the first one, what was the name of the mannequin in today's special?
Wasn't his name also Jeff or Jeffrey?
His name was Jeff. I wish we had like a buzzer and I'd like, burr, 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 burr.
I'll edit it in. Burr, 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 burr.
Okay, now you get to explain what today's special was.
So today's special, and you can obviously fill in a lot of these blanks because you've done the research, but from my memory, today's special was a show about a department store. And every night when the department store would close, the mannequin Jeff would come to life, and other characters would also like appear as part of like the night happenings in this department store. So there was Muffy the Mouse, I think. Muffy the Mouse. There was Sam Crenshaw, who was he was the only one who got a first and last name. Yeah. Sam Crenshaw was the security guard, the night security guard. And he was clearly a puppet, right? Like he was clearly a puppet. And the weird thing is there was a woman. I don't remember her name or what she was at all. I'm guessing was she also a mannequin? She was not a mannequin. She was a human. Her name was Jody. And there was like, now I identify it as like kind of like a weird sexual tension between Jeff and Jody. There was definitely something going on. So like it could never be. He was a mannequin that went. You can only be with them at nighttime in the department store. Yes, Jeff obviously could never leave the department store, but Jody was there to take care of them and kind of was just like the gang getting into stuff around the department store. It also made me fantasize a lot about wanting to live in a department store. And also, do you remember the book From the Mixed Up Files of Mrs. Frankie Basil? No. Hang on. You will, because I know you read it. While you're looking for that, I did also have that same like, wait, so when the stores close, is this what happens? And I remember at the Wolco, so again, very specific, it ended up being a Walmart eventually, but in the Wolco, and we talked about this before, the like weird conveyor belt escalator that they had, you'd be going up that weird escalator and they always had like a holiday display on like a platform as you were going up. And I remember like they would put mannequins there. And I remember thinking like, wait, at night, do these guys like, do they come alive and use the barbecue set that they've got set up there with the tent and the lounger? No, I thought the exact same thing. And the book was called From the Mixed Up Files of Mrs. Basil Frank Weiler. Do you remember this? It was these kids that ran away from home, a brother and sister. This would be a great topic. It's a brother and sister who ran away from home and they take weeks to prepare and they move into the museum in New York City and they live in there for like weeks and weeks. And for money, they scrape the money up off the bottom of the fountains and they use that to pay for their food during This is not ringing a singular bell in my brain. Oh my gosh. Okay, well, it might have been on my competitive reading list, which might explain why only I read it. I have the book here now. Wasn't there a movie early 90s, maybe mid 90s, where it takes place in a department store? The movie's called Career Opportunities with Jennifer Connelly and Frank Whaley, and the tagline is maximum comedy at minimum wage. And it's these two teens, I guess, locked in this department store overnight. I think one of them might work there, but anyways, we don't need. Okay, well, let's watch it for the pod. This sounds great. That's right up our alley. Right on brand. Okay, are you ready that was today's special? Are you ready for another question? Yes, but before we go into that, I will mention that for this episode on the Substack, just go to dreyerdrive.com. We will post the like intros or clips for each one of these shows that we mentioned, so that if you remember them, you can take a walk down memory lane with us. If you have no idea what we're talking about, you can tune in. If you're not from Canada, you can see the type of nonsense we were watching as Canadian children on public broadcasting. Yeah, some of it is pretty wild. When I was trying to find like the top 10, I was like, what on earth?
Okay, my next question. What were the singers at the end of Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego called?
Ooh, you're going to say it? I'm going to be so angry that I didn't get this. Where
Yes,
in the world is Carmen Sandiego? Geez, were they not the ones that also did the In the Jungle, the Mighty Jungle?
I don't know if they were the... Yes, I feel like, they might have been the same as well. And while you're thinking about it, Where in the World in Carmen Sandiego is obviously a like mystery show where you trailed Carmen Sandiego around the world. We also were lucky enough to have the computer game on our very first computer, and I played it non-stop.
Well, at first it was on Auntie Gail's computer, right?
Well, that became our computer.
And then we would go to Auntie Gail's house on like a rainy Saturday afternoon to play Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego on like 9 different discs. I cannot remember the name of the group, but I swear to you, they're the ones that did the...
Lion Sleeps Tonight. You're thinking of rockapella.
That's exactly... I swear to you. Hold on. And then they say, like, hit it, rockapella. So they 100%, I'm not hallucinating this at all. They did a version of The Lion Sleeps Tonight. I swear to you, we listened to that in Mr. Weidrich's music class.
That tracks. That's right.
That's how I'm this well-versed on this. And we've talked about Mr.
On Mr. Weidrich.
He was the greatest music teacher this world has ever seen. And he would let us listen to music like that while we were having, or he would basically, we did it. We did the like acapella or rockapella version in class. Anyways, I'm getting pretty worked up about that. I'm excited.
You're really excited about rockapella. All right, on to the next question. This one's about Under the Umbrella Tree. Who were the main characters of Under the Umbrella Tree? And extra points if you can remember the theme song or hum it.
Under the umbrella.
Da 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 da.
Well, yes, that's about, I don't remember any of the words except for Under the Umbrella Tree.
Can you remember what the animals were under the umbrella tree?
Not at all, because I actually feel that Under the Umbrella Tree was probably you, Jonathan, and Dallin more than me and Dan. But I totally remember pieces of it. I can't remember any of the characters. I think it was a woman main, right?
Yes. Yeah. And they lived in an apartment together, and she had 3 animals that lived with her. And the first was Jacob the Jay. He was a bird. And then Iggy the iguana, he was a lizard, and Gloria the gopher. And it was so funny. I was looking at the long name. Gloria has like a really long name, and I should have written it down. So I actually have an umbrella tree in my house in homage to the umbrella tree.
Gloria, Gladys, Grace, Gabrielle, Gardenia, Glenda, Gail Gopher is a Jamaican American performed by Maureen Young. Gloria is the only female puppet in the umbrella tree household and lives and sleeps underneath it, entering her burrow from behind the couch. She enjoys music and other performing arts, keeping her more particular interests secret, even from her best friends. She's a tomboy and does not like being treated like a girl. And her haircut, just for the record, was incredible.
Okay, I truly identified with Gloria. I was a tomboy and I did not like being treated as a girl growing up. So Gloria was very special to me as a child.
There is a 26-minute documentary on YouTube called Defunct TV, The History of Under the Umbrella Tree. And how you missed that during your research is beyond me.
So I have an umbrella tree in my house that is it's probably 6 or 7 feet tall. It takes up so much space. And Justin's constantly begging me to let him take it to the office or let him get it out of the house. And I'm like, no, the umbrella tree is very special to me.
The thing I actually loved about Under the Umbrella Tree is that in a lot of the other like puppet oriented shows of that era, you didn't get to see more than just like the shoulders and the head, or they were really small, right? Under the Umbrella Tree, like these puppets, like they had size. So there's this picture of Holly and she's sitting down on the sofa and like the puppets come up to like her shoulders. Like they were big puppets. And I remember thinking like, it was almost more believable. Like, hey man, these things, they could be out there.
Normal size puppets.
They could be out there.
I really liked Under the Umbrella show as well because so down the street from us on Dreyer Drive, I don't know if you remember, there was a house that had kind of like a solarium, a glass solarium off the side of the house. And the woman who lived there would invite me over for tea all the time. When I was about 6 or 7, I was very young. I would go to her house and we would take tea in the solarium. I could not tell you this woman's name. I know nothing about her. Did anybody
know that you were there? Like, I think this...
No, I have no idea how she started it. I think I was probably just like riding my bike up and down the street, and she invited me in. And so,
little girl, would you like to join me in the solarium for tea? And you're like, yes, I would love that. I'm not going to inform a single adult.
Someone to pay attention. I was like, I want someone to pay attention to me. So I would go all the time. And her husband looked like Santa Claus, honestly. He had a long white beard, white hair, and he smoked a pipe. And so we'd walk up and you don't remember the man that smoked the pipe at that house? And this is crazy, but one year he gave me a bicycle.
What?
Like,
what is this?
I don't know. And like to this day, I feel bad because I never knew their names. I don't know anything about them except that the lady was very nice to me, gave me lots of tea and treats. And then her husband gave me a bicycle. And then I moved away and never saw them again.
Wow. Okay.
Also, where were our parents, honestly?
This, again, perfect holiday movie script right here. You've got this one girl in a family with 4 boys, and no one's paying attention to her. But then one day, Santa Claus and Mrs. Claus invite her in for cookies, and she gets blessed with a bicycle.
And I was like a ragtag tomboy, and they like taught me how to be a lady. They showed me manners and etiquette. Next question. What was Ghost Rider about?
No idea. I'm assuming a ghost that writes.
Ghost Rider was on TVO. It was probably about 1995, I would say, to 97. And it was about a group of young kids and teenagers who solved mysteries with the help of a little ghost that would lead them to the clues. And it was like a blob that would appear, and you would have to write down the clues to figure out what the answer to the mystery was at the end of the show.
So again, I wonder if this one was, I'm on a Reddit thread about it, and there are people talking about, like, I'm 35 years old and I remember this so perfectly, and it was 3 years ago, so 38, that would put me a few years older than them. There was a cameo by Samuel L. Jackson on Ghost Rider.
Well, I would like to see that. I had the board game. Jonathan and I had the Ghost Rider board game, and it had like these little like folios that you'd read about the mystery, and then you'd use your little Ghost Rider to like cover up certain words or put like a plastic thing over, and it would highlight words for you, and you'd help try to figure out the mystery playing Ghost Rider.
And there's a thread here saying that it was actually the PBS show, but I'm guessing it was like a
TVO. I think often TVO picked up PBS.
I remember the PBS, because there might be people that are listening to this being like, yeah, we saw that on PBS as well, because at the end there would be the PBS kind of like logo. This is wild. So I do not remember Ghost Rider very much. I see the stills, like I'm looking at some stills, and I remember it kind of when I see the stills, but I'm really not even, picking up on this one. Like the characters, I'm like, yeah, of course she was on that. Like I totally remember her, but I don't remember.
I always wonder where all these kids were, a lot of these children who were on these like public access television shows. Like I had a friend who growing up, he was always in these shows on YTV and TVO and a Kraft Dinner commercial. I don't want to brag too much about that, but he still acts to this day. And so when he is on movies, I show them my kids and I'm like, look, this was my friend from elementary school or whatever. I'm like, where are all of these like lost children of TVO now? I think they're probably all doing Lifetime movies at this point if they're still acting. So check your local listings. Okay, next question. In Polka Dot Door,
yes,
what was the conceit of Polka Dot Door? What was the mystery that was happening?
Oh, well, we did talk about this in a previous episode because you were explaining something about Justin. I think there was like a weird...
Well, no, the fact that I did not understand that personally, I did not get.
So this is a question for you.
I'm just checking to see if we have the same answer because I think I know. I think I know what was happening on Polka Dot Door, but like, let's say it at the same time and see if we have the same answer.
So the whole premise of Polka Dot Door is that the Polkaroo would show up when the man went away.
Yes.
The man would come back just after the Polkaroo left, right? So he would never be on screen with the Polkaroo. Mm-hmm. And then they'd be like, oh, you just missed him. The Polkaroo is here. He'd be like, the Polkaroo was here and I missed him again. And it was that whole thing. And he was the Polkaroo. Like that's the whole...
Yeah, I didn't realize that until I was in my 30s. I just thought he had really bad luck and kept missing the Polkaroo. And the best part is the thought came to me I wasn't like actively thinking about the Polka Dot Door as a 30-year-old. I was like driving around and one day I was like, oh, the man was the Polkaroo. Like it literally blew my mind. It dismantled my entire belief system.
And they have a list. If you go to the Wikipedia page for it, they have a list of like some of the people who hosted the polka dot door. And I thought, ooh, there's going to be some really famous people, like the undiscovered. I've never heard of a single one of these people ever.
And also what I liked about the polka dot door is their side characters were like stuffed animals that's like spoke to only the man and the woman hosts. So they had Humpty Dumpty, Marigold, and Bear. And they were constantly like, what do you want to do today, Marigold? And they'd hold it up to the air and be like, Marigold says he wants to play dress up. And so it wasn't like puppets like today's special, or like they were just two full-grown adults playing dress up and speaking to teddy bears.
And specifically to that point, if you are talking about dress up, you are talking about a Tuesday episode. Did you know that the polka dot door had 5 episodes per week and they were blocked off thematically? So Mondays were for Treasure Day, Tuesdays, Dress Up Day, Wednesday, Animal Day, Thursday, Imagination Day, and Friday was Finding Out Day.
Finding Out Day is my favorite day. That's what I do every time I try to research one of these episodes.
But what's interesting, it says hosts would facilitate specific scientific discoveries on this day or re-examine themes from previous days of the week from a different standpoint. Every Finding Out Day would conclude with the host returning the toys back to their toy box while singing a specific goodbye song. The final camera shot seen before the final credits would be the host exiting through the large polka dot door.
The door, yes, the door.
And do you know, this is so wild to me because everything is mashed up in my brain. Did you know that the Pokeroo only appeared on Imagination Day?
Okay, I did not know that. I think as a 5-year-old child, my brain did not categorize things that way.
But you would just, like, in my brain, the Pokeroo was in every episode.
Every episode, yeah.
No, it says Imagination Day. Hosts would place an emphasis on fantasy, encouraging viewers to use their imagination. This was the only day in which Pokeroo appeared, almost always being played by one of the hosts. Because I actually wasn't always the man that disappeared, right? I think it was one of the hosts, right?
Do you remember?
That's crazy. Just once a week, we would watch that, and we couldn't figure it out.
I just that entire show about
absolute oblivious 7-year-old being like, let's wait for the Pokeroo. He only shows up on Thursdays. Are you kidding me?
Do you remember if you were in afternoon or morning kindergarten?
I feel like I was a morning kindergarten.
Okay, so I remember being in afternoon kindergarten.
Wait.
And I
was afternoon because Vic, if you're listening, you shared a locker. Vic, if you remember, if you're listening, we shared a teal colored
cubby?
Locker. Yeah, cubby. One of us was morning, one of us was afternoon. I can't remember which one I was, but Vic was just a magical, he was like the Pokeroo. He was like Vic was my Pokeroo.
Yeah, morning, yes, you shared based on who had it in the morning and who had it in the afternoon. So
but his name would be in there.
Yeah, you never met the kid who you shared the cubby with because they went to an opposite schedule with you.
Yeah, but you want to fast track to becoming best friends with somebody? Go to grade 1 and find out you shared the locker with them. And you're like, wait, are you the Pokeroo? And he goes, are you the Pokeroo? Like, did we just become best friends? This stepbrother.
No, I remember that I did afternoon kindergarten specifically because Polka Dot Door was in the morning and I was allowed to watch TV in the morning while everybody else was getting ready to go to school. And there was a block on TV, there was a block of kids shows and it ended with Doctor Who. And as soon as Doctor Who ended, I knew that it was no longer kids program and I'd go about my day. So as soon, that's the thing is, I had no concept of time. My concept of time is whatever TV is on. And so my concept of a day and which day of the Pokeroo showed up, my brain as a 5-year-old did not go that far.
No. And everything just went around those types of blocks, right?
Yeah.
Like, this is the show for this. This means that it's almost time to eat dinner. This is the show for this. It means it's time for a shower. Like, that's pretty much how it went.
Well, speaking of Dressup, do you remember Mr. Dressup's real name? That's my next question.
Man. This is going to drive me nuts because I remember where he lived, like his real house. I remember
yeah, he actually lived not far from us.
It would be, I guess, like the northwest part of Pickering, perhaps.
Okay, so his name was Ernie Coombs, but it was originally played by a man named Fred Rogers.
Fred Rogers, the original Mr. Dressup, which I literally had I'm looking at this right now. My mind is blown because Ernie Coombs in my brain is Mr. Dressup. And I'm reading
here. Yes, that's what I'm saying.
What? What? Mr. Rogers was Mr. Dressup? Ernie Coombs was the former understudy of Fred Rogers in the title role. Holy crap. Mr. Rogers was Mr. Dressup. Like, everyone's going to be listening to this episode being like, Ryan needs to leave. This needs to be just a Jacqueline only podcast. I am sorry. This is another time where my mind is being blown. Like, first of all, Pokeroo only on Thursdays.
Journalism.
Everyone probably knew this, but me just finding out that Mr. Rogers was Mr. Dressup. That's wild.
Yeah. Do you remember like how Mr. Dressup worked? Like, what was the show about?
So I remember, I think there was a couple things I remember. One was the tickle chest. I think it was called the tickle chest.
Mm-hmm. It was
costumes.
Tickle trunk. Sorry.
The tickle trunk. Okay. The same thing. So the tickle trunk had like costumes, I believe, in it that they would use to dress up Mr. Dressup and I guess act out stories or play characters. And I do also remember the dog and the little puppet in the
Casey and Finnegan.
And they were in like a little like not treehouse. Was it a castle? A treehouse castle? A tree castle?
I think it was the treehouse. The castle was definitely Mr. Rogers because it was the king. The king and the queen were in Mr. Rogers' neighborhood.
No, so this one is a treehouse. It's definitely a treehouse. I'm looking at a picture now. I just brought it up. So interesting. And apparently they have the treehouse, or at least at one point they had the treehouse of Mr. Dressup in the foyer of the CBC building in Toronto with Finnegan and Casey right in it.
Yeah, and the thing about Mr. Dressup is that he would have a story or he'd want to play a character, and the tickle trunk would always have the exact right costume for him to wear, and then he would dress up and they would play games and whatever with Casey and Finnegan. Okay, let's do 2 more questions really quick. We'll do fast ones. How did Sharon, Lois, and Bram end each episode?
Like the song?
Yeah.
Skidamarinky, skidamarinky dinky dink.
You're right.
Skidamarinky dinky dink. I know I'm getting it wrong.
No, you're getting closer.
But wasn't skiddly marinky dinky dink?
No. Oh my gosh. Are you having a stroke?
It's the only thing I remember. And I'm just going to keep on repeating it until you say that I got it right. Skidamarinky dink, skiddly marinky dinks.
Skinamarinky dinky dink.
That's it. But
you had the arm motions, so you pretend like your arm was an elephant, right?
Yes, because I remember the elephant.
Skinamarinky dinky dink, switch, skinamarinky do.
Okay.
I point to your eye, cross for love, you, and you'd sing that at the end of everyone.
Yeah, so I remember it. Like, come on, I got the point.
Yeah,
for that one.
I mean, did you get skibbity dip dip doop?
So I found it. Skinamarink. They won a Juno Award for the best children's album for 3 of their albums.
Oh,
1988,
I know that.
1980, 1981, and the year 2000.
Oh, Sharon, Lois, and Bram, I did not know you were out there that time. I do remember Annie Gale having the record of it, and I would go to her house and play the record because she had a record player.
It's all the best tech at Annie Gale's house.
Yeah, Annie Gale. I would clean her house and listen to records. Okay, my final question, and this one's going to be pretty difficult because I think this is one of those things that only exists in my mind, and I'm always interested to see if people remembered it as well. What does the word Barba Papa mean?
Barba Papa was the Barba Papa.
What is Barba Papa?
That like weird blobby character thing, wasn't it?
Okay, yes. What does Barba Papa mean?
It has a meaning?
Yes, it was a French show originally. It was French programming, and
I have no idea what it means, but like the Barba Papa, it's the blob. It's those blobby.
So the last time I was in Paris, we had been through the Louvre, and there was an entire exhibit for Barba Papa, and I had not thought of Barba Papa for 30 years. So when I saw it, I stopped in my tracks and I was like, Barba Papa, this is Barba Papa. And Justin and my daughter were with me and they were like, what are you talking about? And I remember texting you guys being like, Barba Papa, like you guys know it. Like this is not something that I just like made up.
I didn't make this up.
You guys know what Barba Papa is. And you're like, yeah, we all know what Barba Papa was. And I felt so validated. But today when I was researching for this, I found out what Barba Papa means.
I just read it. I spoiled it.
Oh, okay. What does it mean? You can say.
So do you want the story or the meaning? It means Papa's beard, which is cotton candy. Also, there's like the connection there that the Barba Papa is actually cotton candy.
Barba Papa, and he is a bright pink blobby character who looks like cotton candy.
And the way that it happened is that the inspiration came in Paris while walking in the park with Annette Tyson. Taylor Taylor thought he heard a child ask his parents for something called Baba Baba. Not speaking French, he asked Tyson what the words meant. She explained that the child was asking for a treat called Barba Papa, cotton candy, literally daddy's beard. And then later that day in a restaurant, the couple began to draw on the tablecloth and came up with a character inspired by the candy, a pink round character. And when it came to give it a name, Barba Papa came naturally.
When I was looking at Barba Papa, it did something. It's like one of those things that like alters your brain chemistry. It's like you have a scratch that can never be itched, and then you look up Barba Papa, and I'm like, this is so satisfying because every character is so extremely familiar to me. Yet I haven't looked at them for probably 35 years.
When I tell you that I see Barba Papa on a weekly basis in Japan, will your mind be blown?
My mind is already blown.
Barba Papa is alive and thriving in Japan.
That makes me so happy because I love Barba Papa.
We can go to the 100 yen store right now and I can buy a Barba Papa hand towel and notebook guaranteed.
Why didn't I tell you this before Christmas?
Yeah, we're gonna have to get together next Christmas just so I can gift you.
Okay, I guess we're doing it again.
All right.
Okay, well, that was just our little fluffy walk down public access television memory lane for Canadian children's programming.
I came into this when you said that we were going to be going through this. I'm like, geez, I don't know. I don't remember anything. But that was okay because to have my mind blown twice, Mr. Rogers was Mr. Dressup, like Mr. Dressup. Mr. Rogers was Mr. Dressup, and the Pokeroo only showed up on Thursdays. Let those two things sink into your millennial brains.
Just absorb. It feels so
wild.
Good. The nostalgia. It feels so good.
I am still amazed.
Okay.
I'll be telling multiple people. I don't know who I'm going to tell because no one here is going to care. Like
no one here knows.
About to go pick up Lola from school. I'm going to tell the teacher. I'm like, did you know Mr. Rogers was Mr. Dressup?
Mr. Rogers, right? Yeah. Mr. Rogers, right? No, actually, I don't.
Do you have an unhinged text?
So again, going back in the archives, thank goodness that I screenshot all of these unhinged texts. This one I had sent you guys in our sibling thread, a picture of the inside of a velvet lined conversion van, almost exactly like the van that we grew up with. And I messaged the jolt of PTSD this just gave me. Jonathan said, it's missing the table in the middle. And Daniel said, and a lunch bag flying out the window. And I said, and the smell of dog and a box of Timbits. Jonathan said, and the TV and the VCR with On the Way Home and the taping of the 1996 Atlanta Olympics basketball final.
And it had the, you gotta be tough, you gotta be stronger. That song has like a montage for the Dream Team 2 video cassette that was on repeat in that van.
So I always like that one. One day we will do an entire episode just about that van.
And give some context into the lunch bag flying out the window story, because that's a very good one. To summarize Dan and Mom's relationship for about 3 years in the late 90s. So, all right. Well, this was fun as always. Look for some great links in the
we're going to be leaning heavily on the Substack for this one.
DreyerDrive.com. I would ask you to rate this on your podcast apps, but I'm afraid of 1 stars. So you know what? Tell your friends. When they ask if you've got any recommendations for podcasts that you really like for the year 2025, just lie and tell them this one. Just tell them this is your favorite one.
Yeah, maybe tell our own family about it.
Yeah.
I'd love for them to hear about it.
Yeah, if you see our family somewhere, tell them to listen to the podcast.
If you know a porter, let him know this is a good podcast and they just listen to it.
All right. Well, 2 weeks, we'll run it back.
Sounds good to me.
See you.
Bye.